This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss, co-host of PBS's Motor Week. He'll take your calls and comments now at 844-885-4677 or email him at radio@goss-garage.com. And now, Pat Goss.
Hi, everybody. Hey, I got a question for you. Do you know the sounds of your car like you know your playlist? You better say yes, because a favorite song won't change your life, but some noises in your car can truly change your financial life. Every driver should know their car's normal sounds, but most don't, which often bites them. Many car parts that fail give a warning, allowing time to find and fix it before it actually fails. Get in a habit of rolling down the window and muting the radio every time you start your car. That way you can listen to the normal noises your car makes as it starts. Then any different noise means something has changed and must be checked. Another good thing to do is to listen to the engine at higher speeds. So every couple weeks when the car is hot, stop, roll down the window, mute the radio, and listen while you rev the engine slightly for a few seconds in park. Again, if the noises it makes really change at some point, it's time for a check. This helps you become proactive and head off a major problem before it becomes major. It also helps avoid wasting money checking noises that are normal but unfamiliar to you. There is only one way a car sounds normal, so anything different is a warning. Listening to your car might save you a bunch of money. All right, so keep that in mind, folks. And today we're going to do something a little bit different here in Goss's Garage. One of our producers, directors, jack of all trades on the other side of the glass here is Chris DePamphilis, and Chris also acts as our on-site reporter, and he's been down to the Washington Auto Show this week. Chris, welcome onto the show.
Pleasure to be here, Pat.
All right. Now, Washington Auto Show, it's almost over.
Yes, it's actually, they only have today and tomorrow left for the auto show, but they're here every year.
Well, one of the things that has happened over the years, it used to be kind of a mediocre show, but over the last few years, they've moved the dates and so on so it doesn't collide with other major shows and so on.
Exactly.
And they have managed to bring in all kinds of great displays and so on. What are some of the things that you can see at the Washington Auto Show?
So at the Washington Auto Show, it's actually based here in D.C. in the D.C. Convention Center, which is a ginormous space, like to the point where me and another producer actually went together, and we were tired at the end of the day, just walking around the convention center. So it's a huge space. So the benefit of this auto show for an everyday consumer is that every major manufacturer is there, from like Ford to Mazda to Jeep to Lexus. So you can see kind of everything under one house instead of having to go to, one dealership to another dealership. You can kind of see all the cars in person at one location. So spending like 20 days to do that, you can do that in one.
Yeah, that's a big plus. Of course, you can't drive them or anything, but at least you can X out the ones that just don't, your butt doesn't fit them.
Exactly. You can sit in the vehicle and be like, this is okay, but I don't like this part, and it'd be like a kind of process of elimination. Be like, this is the vehicle that I really want to choose.
Yeah, so many people, when they're looking at cars, they want to do all these horsepower numbers, and they want to read reviews and so on. And, the interesting thing about a review, just like we review cars on Motor Week, what I like may not suit you at all.
Exactly. So I'm fairly skinny. So some vehicles for me, I like being tight when I'm driving. So like very tight seat, very tight console, very low to the ground. So me getting into, for example, an H3 Hummer is just not going to fit what I like. It's too much room for me. So maybe I like the design of an H3 Hummer, so I can go check it out at the show, be like, okay, sit in the driver's seat, be like, everything's kind of far away from me. I'm too tiny to actually be in this vehicle, and then go into something like a Mazda 3, which is very low to the ground, very tight console, very tight seat, and be like, oh, this is perfect for me. This is exactly what I want. So instead of spending, countless hours and hours trying to find a dealership that's close to me, trying out this vehicle, I can actually do it in 2 hours.
Yeah, that's a big thing. One thing, folks, that a lot of you make a mistake on is that you concentrate far too much on the exterior appearance of the car. Now, granted, if you want to impress rented lips from 7-Eleven, if you want to impress the folks at 7-Eleven,
right?
Go for that. But if you want something that you and the family or your friends can enjoy for the long haul, you don't spend time on the outside. You spend time inside, and the inside has to work for you.
Exactly. I think the one-liner is you spend most of the time in the car, not outside the car. You're going to be using the car inside. So you have to appreciate the inside and what it has to offer before you really go, oh, I like the shape of this vehicle. So if you like the shape in it and it's very tiny and you don't like that, then that defeats the purpose. You're never going to really drive or enjoy that vehicle.
Yeah, well, another thing that I've told people for years is that, you get in one of these cars and you say, well, okay, I like it, but there's this thing, and gosh, that seat kind of annoys me, and
right.
But I'll get used to it.
You should, when you're buying a vehicle, especially if you're buying a brand new vehicle, there should be no get used to it. You should enjoy the vehicle outright. It should be like a brand new bed to you. You're like, oh, this fits perfectly. There's no three bears where this is too cold, this is too hot. Your vehicle should be absolutely perfect for you.
Poor analogy, Chris, because my last new bed was a bed of nails. And it was not all that comfortable.
So that's how you're as tough as nails?
Could be. The big thing, this business of making sure that you're comfortable in it and so on, most people don't get used to these things. They become sore spots, and you get aggravated with that, and then you start picking at every little thing that isn't exactly right, and eventually you're really unhappy with the car.
I highly would suggest you don't ever want to start off on the wrong foot with a vehicle. It's always, if it's not a pleasant experience, try another one. Especially if you're at a convention, like an auto show like this, where you have these options available to you, especially like once a year. You might as well try out these new models. You literally, instead of going, the biggest point here is, instead of going 50, 100 miles, you can go 2 feet and try something, like even in the same model. So if you really are obsessed with, like, I really like this exterior, they have another model literally 5 feet away that you can try that's different on the interior. So you do have those options available for you.
Yeah, great way to compare cars. Speaking of cars and sales, do you know what's been going on as far as sales are concerned?
So I had the benefit, of course, since all the major manufacturers there, you can actually talk to people who do these auto shows throughout the country and have different viewpoints, different opinions, and talk to a lot of different people in different kind of regions of cultural America. So a lot of people, the rumor mill is that people are like, oh, no one's really buying cars because of our economy, or oh, I really can't afford it. It's actually, in the United States, we're actually buying more cars than ever. As of last year, we had more sales of new cars in history, for example. So people are actually buying cars. What's happening, though, is people are buying more practical vehicles instead of like the sport cars and whatnot. They're buying more family vehicles. So it is really a vehicle for you and your family. So it's, the main thing is, I want to be able to drive around my family, but I also want to take the kids to soccer practice or be able to go skiing for the weekend with my family. So that's going to be more of a forthright thing that people want to buy compared to, oh, I just want a 2-seater Mazda or whatever. They're also buying, in more family colors, which are like white, silver, black, gray. You're not seeing like hot pink, neon green anymore.
Yeah, the fad colors are kind of out of vogue at the
I'm just
moment.
never going to get my neon green car, it looks like.
We can arrange that. We truly can. Yeah, the hot lick with cars right now are compact and subcompact CUVs, crossover utility vehicles.
Right.
So they are really coming of age.
Most definitely.
All right, we need to take a break. We'll be right back here on Goss's Garage.
Stay tuned. Pat will take your calls next at 844-885-4677. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
Are you a savvy driver who uses BG44K? Or are you one of the millions of drivers who have been ripped off on some miracle gas mileage improver? Now, if you use BG44K, you know it works. And if you bought a miracle product, well, you know they don't work. Gas mileage is a function of vehicle design, and the things that control mileage can't be easily changed. But by using BG44K, you'll get the mileage your car was designed to deliver. How? Well, gasoline contains emissions-reducing additives that help the air but choke engines with mileage-robbing deposits. These deposits cause a slow, steady drop in fuel mileage, but using BG44K every 7,500 miles keeps your entire fuel system deposit-free and keeps your gas mileage at new car levels. BG44K is safe for all cars. BG44K helps maintain new car performance and new car fuel economy. So ask your repair professional for BG44K. To find a nearby professional, it's bgfindashop.com or 800-327-8883. Life changes at a ferocious pace these days, especially when it comes to maintaining our cars. For example, automatic transmissions now need regular fluid flushes. Transmission fluid breaks down with use, and although it may look fine, its additives wear out and it can no longer properly protect bands, clutches, seals, and other hugely expensive parts inside your transmission. Bottom line, more wear and a shorter transmission life. Now you can significantly extend transmission life with a BG transmission flush every 24 to 30,000 miles or 2 years. BG makes the best transmission flush machine I've ever tested. It renews all of the fluid in your transmission, not just a small part of it. The BG transmission flush machine is safe, too, because it uses the natural circulation of the transmission. Your transmission will work better and last longer. As with everything BG offers, this is a superior service. For more information, go to bgprod.com or bgfindashop.com.
This is Goss's Garage with Pat Goss. Call the show now at 844-885-4677.
Folks, make sure to subscribe to the Goss's Garage radio show on YouTube, where you can find tips and tricks to save you time and avoid headaches. All right, before we go back to Chris, we're going to speak with Bob from Winchester, Virginia, with a 2004 Ford Taurus. Bob, welcome to Goss's Garage.
Thank you very much, Pat, for taking my call.
Absolutely.
My daughter has a 2004 Ford Taurus. Been a great car, gave us a lot of good years of service. But the last time she took it in to get the oil changed, they told her that she needed to have the oil pan gasket replaced. So they gave her a price. But I've called 2 other places, including the automobile dealership, and the prices are wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
From $140 to over $600 to replace the oil pan gasket.
Okay.
So I just want to know if you could point me in the right direction, because I don't know what to do about that.
Well, there are sites on the internet where you can get the labor rates for those the various operations. So what I would suggest, if you go to my site, goss-garage.com, you'll find a link to one of those sites, and you can look up the labor rate and figure that there will be some variances in labor rates in the hourly rate. Here in Maryland, right outside of the district, it ranges anywhere from about $85 an hour up to some of the dealers are $125, $130 an hour.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
you just take the hourly rate and multiply it
times something that is typical for your area, which in most areas of the country is probably going to be $100 an hour.
Right. So basically, the oil pan gasket itself would be next to nothing. I'd be paying for labor.
Oh yeah, labor is the big thing, and depending which engine it has, which type of oil pan it has, there were two types. There were tin oil pans, the old-fashioned kind, and then you have the aluminum ones that they're using on a lot of the cars these days, and so on. And typically, the gaskets are a lot more expensive for the aluminum ones because they're more durable and they're more highly formed, because they usually are formed in such a manner that they fit into a groove that is machined into the aluminum oil pan. So as opposed to $20, it might be $70 or $80 for the one for the aluminum oil pan.
Yeah. Well, I've been to your site before, Pat, and I'll be happy to go again, and I want to check on those labor rates. So I've kind of narrowed this thing down a little bit, because I'd hate to pay $600 for a job that I could have got done for $150.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I presume that there are puddles of oil underneath the car.
Well, you know what? It's not exactly puddles, but I can see some spots, and they're not heavy.
Well, normally, unless you're really anal about a driveway or a garage or something like that, we normally don't worry about these things, especially on an older car like that, unless they're leaving $half size puddles every time you park it.
Nope, it wasn't anything like that.
And
that's the reason why I was a little surprised that we got that diagnosis, because I figured that I would have seen more oil than that if the oil pan gasket was in as bad a shape as you said it was.
Yeah, that would puzzle me a little bit. You might want to get a second opinion on it too.
Yeah. Well, I think that I will, Pat. And thank you so much for taking my call. It's always a pleasure. I love the show.
Thank you so much. All right. Chris DePamphilis, who works on the other side of the glass here in the studio, and is also our on-site reporter. Been down to the Washington Auto Show, which ends tomorrow at 5, right?
Tomorrow at 6. They're open today till about 10 p.m. if you want to go today, which I'd highly recommend. And then if you want to do it right before the game tomorrow, they're going to be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay. All right. Now, you took some stills. As a matter of fact, we've got on the screen behind us here. What are we seeing here?
So what I have behind me is a couple of cars that we did see in a couple of exhibits. One of my favorite ones that I actually did see. So to engage with a newer kind of clientele, more modern clientele, more technical, savvy clientele, one of the dealerships, so Acura in this scenario, for the vehicles they actually could not have on site, they had a VR experience, so you could actually sit in a chair and see the interior of a vehicle and drive it around without actually having the vehicle on site, and kind of see what it feels like on the road and whatnot. So it was a VR machine, so virtual reality. So I thought that was very interesting for the simple reason that something new.
And only one?
They only had one for this type of, for just Acura.
Well, I mean, only one manufacturer had a VR setup there.
So one manufacturer had a VR setup, and then another manufacturer actually had another, I don't want to call it VR because it's not using goggles, but it was a virtual driving machine, I want to call it, with 3 LCDs on the screen. 3 LCDs, when you turned it, swiveled on an axis, and that was, I actually will have video up on after the show on the Goss Garage radio show YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah. Kind of surprises me that there would only be a couple of these in this day and age.
I thought there would be actually more of these. It kind of brings an opportunity for a dealership to showcase things that they can't easily access. So if they have a special model that's coming out in 2 or 3 months, they can showcase that without actually having it on site. So I actually was talking to a lot of these manufacturers, and they're all moving towards this direction, but kind of want to test the waters first before making that initial investment.
Yeah, well, that's true. When you put these things together for an auto show and so on, a lot of these displays are million displays and so on.
Extremely expensive. And there's also research. You got to have someone to design all the software and hardware as well, because it's not like it's just a traditional VR experience outside of the box. They take that and they modify it out the wazoo for this certain scenario, certain occasion. So definitely hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars go into these setups.
Okay. All right. What are some of the other things that you found particularly interesting?
So one of the cool things that I thought was really nice, especially for a more local event for the DC Auto Show, is they actually had an event where they had a military day. And that's actually conveniently when I went. And so they actually had military personnel come in and, let me see if I have that picture here. I think it was back here. One of the examples I wanted to bring up, so especially for the military show, a lot of these people that are in the military go to police services and stuff like that. So they actually had a separate exhibit just specifically for marketing new police vehicles, ambulance vehicles, and the like, which I thought was really, really cool to target a niche market.
Law enforcement and emergency services.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
So another thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, especially since it's a new hot topic, is electric vehicles. A lot of people are asking, when am I getting my Jetsons flying car? It's the year 2000. It's past the year 2000. It's time for my flying car. So I actually went around and talked to a lot of these manufacturers and asked them, why is there only a few options available for these electric vehicles, especially since that's what we're hearing about in the news, is this is the new age, this is what we're going to be coming to in the coming years. The problem with that is people want these vehicles, but they actually are not, you really vote with your wallet. So people are not actually initially buying these vehicles, and the main problem here is range anxiety.
Yeah, that's a big issue. I wouldn't mind having an electric car myself, but I need to be certain places at certain times and so on. And in many cases, between stops, like on Saturdays when I'm doing multiple shows in different, I do one in Virginia, and then I do one in Maryland, and then I may make an appearance in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And I don't have time in between to charge the battery. So, and I wouldn't have the range to cover all these stops.
Especially with a current range of 40, 50 miles. I mean, you would go maybe even 1/3 the destination that you want to go to and then have to wait 2 or 3 hours to get your vehicle charged, which is kind of ridiculous in this new day and age. The good news is, in the future, is we're seeing vehicles being made now that have 200, 250 plus miles before they need to recharge. Yes, sadly, it's only, it needs to be recharged and still has to take 3 or 4 hours to recharge. But most of these manufacturers, especially with this initial investment people that want these cars, are willing to build these charge points more often, especially with just swapping out the battery instead of having to charge.
Eventually, I think we're going to see an infrastructure that supports electric vehicles better, and we're probably going to see other things like hydrogen and so on that fall into the similar categories, but we need the infrastructure to make them practical for daily life.
Exactly, and to have that infrastructure available, we first need that need. People need to be able to invest an initial monetary value to create that infrastructure, and that is the double-edged sword, if you want to call it.
Yeah, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Exactly. You're like, which one should I do first?
Now, one of the things, and I'm surprised more manufacturers don't do it, Chevrolet Volt and Bolt both have gasoline engines, so when the battery runs out, they're not hybrids in the traditional sense of a hybrid, but as the battery goes down, you reach a certain point where the gasoline engine starts up. The gasoline engine runs a generator. It does not run the wheels. It runs a generator, and the generator drives the wheels.
Right.
Which, that as long as you got gas in the tank, you can keep going. It's just like a regular car that way.
So my question to you, would an everyday consumer, especially using, I call it a hybrid vehicle, would they just forget to put gas in their vehicle when they're so used to going on the battery, and eventually they just be SOL?
It would be a real problem it would be really difficult for most people to drive a hybrid and not have to put gas in it. Not as frequently because they get good gas mileage, but because the engine will start not just based on the battery, but the amount of acceleration and whole bunches of different things. But that's where the Volt and the Bolt are different in that they are not hybrids. They are electric cars, but they have an onboard gasoline generator to keep them going. And that is a problem because depending on the way you drive, some people who have a set distance of 30 miles or something like that they drive, and then they plug it in and charge the battery that way, they can go a year or more without having to put gas in it. And because premium gas is more stable for long-term storage than regular, even though the engines are fully capable of using regular, GM recommends premium because people don't add gas to the gas tank often enough.
For forgetful people like me are like, oh, I need to put gas in this vehicle? I don't remember.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no place to put it.
Exactly.
Because it's always full. So, but I think we're going to see a lot of improvements as time goes on.
I know that I would be an initial investor for that. I think my main concern right now is I can't really, do a hybrid or electric vehicle or mostly electric vehicle that does 30 miles and expect to, for example, come to work. Like it's just not
30
optimal.
miles would be really extremely low in this day and age. I think the majority of them these days are 60 to a little over 100 miles. And, a lot of people could, but what they can't do is plan on the unexpected.
Right.
And that's where range anxiety comes in, is because you don't know from one day to another what's going to happen in your life. And
I mean, especially in this day and age, extremely especially in this day and age, we are reliable. We rely on our cars. We need them to be there 100% and work every time, especially if I need to come to work, I need to go visit family, I need to be able to get to an airport for a flight, I need to be on time. We can't have the car just not work. And be like, oh, I forgot to charge the battery, so I can't go to my flight, and there goes my flight, and I can't go see my family.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why one of my cars is a high mileage car, but it's not a hybrid or anything. I get almost the same mileage as most hybrids do, in the low to mid 40s. And I have a car that is reliable and it's also kind of fun to drive.
And that's the key. You should also, the car should be comfortable. But if you don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. It should be, and you should almost look forward to driving your vehicle. It should be not just I have to go to work. I'm like, I have to go to work, but I get to drive my vehicle. I get to have fun in my car while I do it.
Yeah. And folks, if you're considering an electric car, one of the things that you need to do research on is resale value, because some of the electric cars are just falling right flat on their face when it comes time to trade them in. Just horrific depreciation on some of them. So you need to do that first. More with Chris coming up. We'll be right back on Goss's Garage.
Operators are standing by to take your call for Pat at 844-885-4677. Goss's Garage continues in a moment.
Think you'll get a deal buying a used car from an individual instead of a dealer? Possibly, but there's a good chance you'll get taken if you wind up dealing with a Curbstoner. Curbstoners are low-life scum who buy cars with problems, cobble them together, roll back the miles, make them look good, and resell them. They usually claim the car belonged to a friend or relative, and there's a sad story about a death, financial woes, illness, or other tragedy. If you buy from one of these crooks, you'll probably get a great-looking car, but in poor mechanical or body condition at a slightly lower price. But you won't get a warranty or a good, reliable car. Curbstoner cars are often so bad they only have scrap value. There are Curbstoner cars all over the internet, in nearly every shopping center and sitting along the road. Total loss, flood cars are a Curbstoner favorite because there are tens of thousands of them and they're easy to disguise. So when buying off the street, question everything. When was the title issued? Is it in the seller's name? Does it show the seller's proper address? Is it from another state? Of course, always have a shop check any used car and get a Carfax vehicle history report before paying a dime. Curbstoners are crooks who will happily steal your money. so be really careful. I get lots of questions about BG products, many about specific products or services like, is BG44K really that good, or are BG transmission, cooling system, and power steering flushes actually necessary? But most popular of all, do I use BG products in my cars? Well, the answer to all of those questions is yes. A regular schedule of BG flushes and chemicals will deliver the longest possible life from all the lubricated and fuel delivery parts on your vehicles. And do I use BG products? You bet I do. I drive nice cars, and I drive a lot. Plus, my live radio and TV shows mean that my cars have to be absolutely reliable. A no start from dirty fuel injectors or a failed transmission just isn't acceptable in my life. Remember, deposits and dirty fluids ruin expensive parts. For reliability like I demand, visit one of the quality shops that sell BG products and perform BG services. To find a BG professional near you, bgfindashop.com.
Now, back to Goss's Garage with your host, Pat Goss.
Folks, make sure to subscribe to the Goss's Garage radio show on YouTube, where you can find tips and tricks to save you time and avoid headaches. All right, now we have an email from Lee. Lee says, hey, Pat, some of the manufacturers have ride and drive at the Washington Auto Show, just around the block, but I found I didn't like the Ford Focus so much after driving the Kia Soul. Well, yes, they do. I don't know how many manufacturers. Did you check on that, Chris?
It's not all of them, of course. I mean, especially the higher end ones, they don't really like having people drive their expensive vehicles. But it's not as popular as people would like to think, because you only get it's a planned course, it's around the block. You don't really get a sense of how to really drive the vehicle. It's more like a 30-second get in, get out, you're done.
Yeah.
So it's not, what a lot of these places are doing are forwarding them to their actually dealerships that are nearby and saying, here's my card, I can plan, whatever vehicle you like to get, I can plan it for a future date. So that's what a lot of these manufacturers are doing at the show, instead of actually having to drive.
It's a tease.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, well, Lee says that he likes the Kia Soul better than the Ford Focus. And Soul is a popular car, and if you're looking for something in that price range and in that size category, again, rented lips, good Lord. Kia Soul is a very good choice. So don't just overlook it because it's kind of quirky looking on the outside.
Right.
It's a very nice driving vehicle, and it's a very practical vehicle with, you'd be shocked at how much room is inside it. It's impressive. So don't just automatically overlook it.
Right. You really can't judge a book by its cover. I mean, every new vehicle that we've seen with a different design, we can't really just throw off. For example, like the VW Bug, when it first came out, must have been super weird to look at, but it's one of the most famous cars, recognized cars known to man. So you can't really be like, oh, it looks weird, I don't even want to look inside and test drive it. Look inside, feel around first. See, you have to open the book first to realize if you like it or not.
And Chris, what's the price?
So people are like, oh, am I going to be paying like $50, $75 to get into the show, which is pretty true, since it's an all-day show. It's only $12 to come into the show and try out these vehicles. So instead of, you basically would spend that money on gas trying to get to these different dealerships. Why not, save some time, save some energy, come to the show, bring your family along, see what they have to offer.
Well, the other thing, of course, with the show is that there are things there for the kids and all that, and it isn't just cars. You have accessories, you have demonstrations.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have fun in a VR machine, for example, one of the driving simulators that I saw, I can't help you. Like there's something for everyone there. If you can't find it, it's impossible. It's something there for everyone.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a car nut or anything of the kind. It's just.
I wouldn't count myself as a car nut, but I thoroughly enjoy myself going, and I know very little when it comes to cars, quote unquote.
But you know more now.
I do now, absolutely.
All right. Let's see. We have a call from Jim from Fairfax. Something about an airbag recall. Let's take a listen.
Hi, Pat. This is Jim from Fairfax. My wife's 2007 Mazda 6 just had the passenger side airbag replaced under recall, and now the activator light or deactivator light on the instrument panel comes on. It says it's turned off. Took it back to them now, and they say, well, she doesn't weigh enough. It never did this before they changed the airbag. They said they can't get the tracks anymore, but they could put a weight sensor on it for $425 that may or may not work. Can you suggest a path forward for us on getting an evaluation on this? And
all right. Well, Jim, yes, I can give you some pointers on what to do. Number one, file a complaint with safercar.gov. Get it on the federal database. File a complaint with your local consumer agency. File a complaint with with Mazda and anybody else that you can think of, because this is absolutely a ripoff. Nothing but a ripoff. They're trying to upsell you. If it worked before, it should work after. And as far as saying that your wife is too light, she doesn't weigh enough, well, unless she weighs less than my 9-pound dog, then she's got to be one tiny woman. And that is just a lot of crap as far as what they're telling you, and they just want to get into your bank account and steal your money. So, if the sensor is bad, it wasn't bad when it came in, then there's chances that it isn't hooked up right, or they damaged it or something. So, you really need to get aggressive with this, because among other things, if you were involved in an accident, she could be hurt or worse. So this is nothing to play around with. Good Lord. I don't know what's going on with some shops. You play with people's lives and so on just for the sake of a $400 sale.
Safety really should come first in a business. You should take care of your customer first before thinking of your bottom line. That's the end goal. And it's really disappointing to see that.
Yeah, it is. But unfortunately, that is what we're seeing a lot of. All right, let's see. Lynn says, if I can get this up here, I know you were vigilant in warning your listeners about curbstoners. If they're just as prevalent now as they were at the turn of the century. What are some potential customers should be on the lookout for? Curbstoners. You familiar with curbstoners?
I think we've actually had a discussion on this on the show before, if I'm correct.
Yeah. Curbstoners, folks, are these sleazeballs that they go to a junk auction, typically. There are other ways to do it. They may see something sitting in your driveway that you've called one of the donation services to pick up for free, to haul away for you because it's such a piece of junk. And they'll come in and offer you $100 for it, or they go to the junk auction, they buy some cheap thing that has the potential to look good, not be good, but look good. And they take this thing and they spit shine it and go through it and make it look like a decent car. And then they turn around and they use the various listing services online, Craigslist and Auto Trader and things like that. And they advertise it, usually at a fairly good price, but they don't tell you that it's junk.
they tell you that there was a member of the family that died or something, and this vehicle, they're just charged with getting rid of it,
Right.
and stuff like that. You ask them about the tag; it has the tags don't match on it or something, and they say, well, I just put one of my tags on it because it belonged to my uncle, my grandfather, whoever.
Right.
And they tell you some sob story about it. And bottom line is they got an answer for the reason the title isn't in their name and all that, so they're going to pass the title to you. It's got a blank on the title, and they'll fill your name in, take your money. And once you get it, you find out that you have nothing. You have something that probably is worth what you can sell it for scrap. So be very careful about these cars that are represented as being some kind of a tragedy within the family, that don't have all of the proper paperwork, that don't have a proper registration with them, and the tag numbers should match the registration, and the registration has to have the vehicle identification number of the vehicle you're looking at, and so on. Without those sorts of things, you've got to be really, really, really careful.
Extremely, especially if you're getting red flag after red flag after red flag. Like, something here is not right, especially when you're paying with your money. It's time to look around and get a second opinion, try to see what's going on here.
Yeah, and if you think you can spot all of this, one of these guys was so sophisticated that he would go into a nice neighborhood and he would watch to see when somebody went on vacation. Of course, he would also look at Facebook and so on to see if there were postings that they were going on vacation. Then what he would do is he would, after they left, he'd come in, he'd park this car, he'd make appointments, park this car in that person's driveway, and kind of go around the side of the garage, and when you pulled up, he'd walk around like he was coming out of the garage or something, like he lived there, and do the transaction, take your money, get you the heck out of there. Then when you find out the car is no good, well, the number is no good, because he's used I guess they call it a burner phone.
Yep.
And so you can't call him. And you go back to the house, because you remember where it is. You knock on their door, and somebody
Completely different is there.
and they're not thrilled to see you. So, there was no way to, trace this guy back to get any kind of compensation or anything like that. Just a giant mess.
Extremely. And it's really disappointing to see that this is happening.
Yeah. So, it's, I don't know. It's amazing what people will do for a few $100.
Extremely. I think it's just, when in doubt, if you keep seeing red flag after red flag, something's, a little fishy, something doesn't seem right, get a second opinion, make sure to do your due diligence, look at your options.
Yep. All right. What else do we need to know about things going on at the Washington Auto Show?
Wear your good walking shoes, for one. It's a huge, I say this again for the sole reason that I don't think people understand. It's a ginormous space, the Washington Convention Center. It is 3 floors of cars. It will take you plan to get there early. It will take you all day. Make sure you get there early so A, you have no competition, try out the cars that you want to sit in, experience. And B, if you go early, you have the chance to talk to the manufacturers, people who know this industry, with any questions you have. So the better that you come informed, the better off you will be at the show.
All right. Now, they have, if you want to see exotics, you were telling me earlier that McLaren had some special car there.
Oh my gosh. So when I make it big, when I win the lottery, the car that I want to get is the McLaren. I think they're gorgeous cars. And there's no I like the horsepower. I just love the cars. I've got a chance to sit in one. I love how they feel. I love how they look. It is the dream car.
So cars like that, which you could go a lifetime and never see one on the street.
Extremely.
So you can see stuff like that. And it isn't just McLaren. There's all kinds of stuff like that.
Roll, like if you name it, it's probably there. Like we saw Rolls, Bentley, everything. Like we saw racing cars. If you can think it, if you can dream it, it's at the DC Convention Center today and tomorrow. Like definitely, minimally, if you have a couple hours to spare, for $12, absolutely worth the trip. Go get a bite to eat. Go to the convention center. Enjoy yourself.
Okay. All right. Couple of other things here, folks. We'll talk more with Chris in just a second. This was, this is from Ken. He says, I listened to your recent great video on batteries and don't mind telling you I used to use Vaseline on my battery post for years and never had a problem with it, other than it melting all over the place. And yes, that's what it did. It melted and got down between the post and the cable, which back in the day was not a big deal. But I now heed your warning on not using it. Would it be okay to use copper anti-seize lubricant to protect battery terminals from corrosion? It would be nice since I already have the product for lubricating brake calipers. All right, well, that's not the greatest thing for brake calipers either, Ken. Sorry to tell you that. It holds too much dirt. The typical brake grease is, it almost feels like melted plastic. It's a very special high temperature grease, not as high temperature as anti-seize, but it is, once it's applied, it's really slippery so that dirt doesn't stick to it as well. All right, anyway, my answer to Ken is that we used to use Vaseline in the shop back in the day, but switched when I participated in a battery engineering symposium. Now, the object of the study was to see what effect computers and emission controls, specifically much higher underhood temperatures, were having on batteries and battery service. Now, one of the key things I learned was that the much higher temperatures were causing greases to melt and migrate between the post and cable, setting up slightly higher resistance in the connection. This higher resistance in some cases caused a voltage drop to the auxiliary power feed or to some of the computer feeds and things like that. Now, as an upshot of that, we saw the advent of battery terminal coatings. These terminal coatings, see, the thing that we're trying to do here is we are trying to make the battery cable connection airtight, because there are acidy gases that are coming out of the battery, and those gases get up under the cable, and a lot of the corrosion occurs because the gases with the acid in them come up under the cable and up through the bottom. So one of the criteria for a good battery terminal coating, number one, has to be flexible so that it doesn't come apart from vibrations and so on. Number two, it has to completely coat the cable end and the post and completely seal the connection between the post and the cable. But the other thing is you have to spray it up underneath the cable so that it'll seal the bottom of it, because that's where most of the damage occurs. Now, yes, you could use the anti-seize compound. The only thing is that I would highly recommend, if you're going to do that, that you buy the felt pads that go between the cable and the top of the battery. Now, we use the heavy-duty ones from BG Products because they're more dense than some of them that we've seen, and they seem to have more of the chemical in them. Now, what you do, you put that pad on there, then you push the cable down to the point where the cable is sealed against the pad, making a complete airtight seal between the bottom of the cable and the top of the battery, which keeps the acidy gases from attacking the bottom of that connection. So that's the way I would approach it. And actually, even when we use the battery terminal coating, which we do here in the shop, we always use those BG battery terminal pads as well, because it's just a little step above and beyond as far as the the protection goes, as far as making that connection airtight, which that's the real thing that we're looking for. All right. Chris, anything else that you would like to share with us about the
auto show?
Yeah.
Biggest thing, I guess, is your last chance to go would be today and tomorrow. Yet again, it's today till 10 p.m., so you can go right after the show today. Or tomorrow, right before the game, you can go from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And remember, if you sadly, you have plans, you have something, you can't do it this weekend, they're here every year. So make sure to check it out next year as well.
Now, you have a picture up here.
Yes.
Guy with a Hyundai, two people with Hyundai. Oh, yeah, you got a bunch of them there.
So for those listening on TuneIn, one of the cool events that was at the Washington Auto Show, and they have basically every year, is a hands-on contest. And so this year is with Hyundai, where, you have 10, 15 people come on Tuesday or, a couple days before the end of the show on Sunday. They get, do the song and dance, and they touch the vehicle, and they have to stay there until Sunday at 12. And they must be touching the vehicle or they're out. Last person wins, and if there's more than one person left, they give them car keys, and those people try to start the engine. So the reason that I thought it was cool to see this is that it doesn't end, when you're touching the vehicle, it doesn't end when the show ends. You're there all night. You're there from Tuesday at 2 o'clock till Sunday at 12. You're there all day. And so some of the ingenious strategies that I saw, for example, was one of the person that we have on our picture here will also be on YouTube later. At the front of the vehicle, literally jammed himself underneath the vehicle so that he was always touching the vehicle, and that's how he slept, so that he could never be out because he's always touching the vehicle. So if you wanted to participate in an event like this, this is also there every year. So if you want to try your bite, try to win a brand new vehicle, you can do that at the DC Auto Show.
And yes, they do give you bathroom breaks.
Yes, I hope so.
Highly regimented. You don't have to be superhuman to participate.
It's a 10 or 15 minute break every 4 hours. So you just have a quick enough to go and get back.
Yeah, so don't drink the giant drink before you start.
I mean, if that's the strategy you want to do, is drink a huge gallon of water right before you start, that's on you, but my money's not on you to win in that case.
Right. Yeah, because if you don't follow the rules as far as the bathroom breaks go, you are disqualified.
Oh, no, I actually was talking to one of the organizers of events. There is a contract, there are rules. For example, there is guards that will watch you the entire time of the show. And last year, someone was disqualified because you're not allowed to have watches, you're not allowed to have a cell phone on you, not allowed to have your iPad on watching Netflix, you're not allowed to cheat. It is a battle between you, the car, and your brain. And the person decided to have the mistake of looking at one of the guards' people watches. Someone asked for the time. He said, "Oh, I looked on the guard's watches this time." Immediately disqualified. So It is a battle between you, the car, and your brain for time.
Well, that makes sense. You're getting $18,000 to $25,000.
Right.
And so, it's got to be controlled. And if you don't,
absolutely no cheating.
There'll be somebody that'll cheat if you don't.
There's ramifications of cheating. So it's not a cakewalk. For example, one of the producers and I, when we were watching the show, we stayed for a little bit and saw, the will of the people. And they're like, they're really excited at the beginning. And even after 4 hours, you could just see it. They're like, I don't want to be here anymore, but I'm 4 hours in, I'm still touching the vehicle. And they start to slump down, start getting relaxed. They no longer want to talk to each other. At about 6 or 7 hours, they're all like, has it been 24 hours yet? Is it? I don't know what day it is anymore. So it's really it's a battle of wits. It's a determination. It's not really me versus the other contestants. It's really me versus myself.
Yeah. It takes something to win that, let me tell you. All right, so we have that. That's always fun to watch.
Oh my gosh, extremely.
Let's see, what else did we? Seems like I had some other question.
Well, I have one for you. So To make sure, after the show, especially in the next couple of days, please make sure to check out our YouTube channel. It's Goss's Garage Radio Show. We're going to have some videos up of the auto show, what we did find. I'll have actually a video of the beginning of this round as well for the Hyundai car touch thing. I have video of that as well. So if you want to see the beginning of that and how they actually start the event, I will have that on YouTube as well.
All right. Well, on Goss's Garage, we've been doing on our YouTube, we've been doing an instruction as far as batteries and stuff like that. And this week, we're going to substitute Chris and his video from the Washington Auto Show.
Absolutely.
In place of that.
Make sure to look forward to it. It's going to be really fun to watch.
So hopefully as we go along, we're going to get you out in the field more often.
I am ready.
Well, I know you didn't like it.
Oh, man, I get to go to the car show? Oh.
Well, but you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you out to some of the actual car shows. This is an auto show. This is
right.
New cars. But we have a ton of car shows in the Washington metro area. And I want to work it out with you where you can cover some of these for us.
I would look forward to it. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it, but my schedule right now is such that it's really difficult for me to do a lot of these things.
It'd be great to show the Goss's Garage community kind of what goes around in this area as well.
Yeah.
So even if you're not from the D.C. area, you can feel like you have been to the D.C. area and seen these shows.
Right. And one other thing for you local folks, there is a new Goss's Garage, a second Goss's Garage coming up. We open March 1st. We're in Crofton, Maryland, 1101 Route 3 South in Crofton. We have a lovely 8-bay facility there. And as a matter of fact, Anthony, who has been with me for years, he's down there right now painting some trim and so on, and overseeing new signage and a whole bunch of stuff. And we're going to staff that and make the business like it has always been here in Lanham, in that we're going to have just the utmost as far as quality control and things like that. Not to say that we never make a mistake, because we do, we're human. But one thing that I can guarantee in either of those shops, that if we do make a mistake, I am absolutely going to see to it that it gets taken care of for you. I'm not going to sit around and argue with you about it.
Absolutely. You have to make sure, when this new, I've actually seen the new location, it's absolutely gorgeous. So if you want courtesy, professionalism, and job done right, make sure to check out Goss's Garage here.
All right, Chris DePamphilis, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, Pat.
Okay. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Steve McMillan, George Stockton, and Chris DePamphilis, although he wasn't producing the show today, for producing today's show. For everyone here at Goss's Garage, I'm Pat Goss. Until next time, hey everybody, drive gently. We'll see ya.